All right. Hi, everybody. I just put together a little first responder safety class regarding Tesla vehicles. There's been a couple incidents in the last few weeks where we've been presented with these cars, and some of the same questions kind of kept coming up as far as some of the safety features and basic operations with Teslas specifically. So I just wanted to put something together real quick that was down and dirty, very straightforward, and easily able to get out to you guys. So hopefully there's some takeaways that we can utilize out there when we are presented with these cars. So let's get into it. So some of the basic objectives that we're going to be going over are some of the operations as far as the unique features that Tesla has on their vehicles. We're just going to go over some basic safety, keeping the car stationary, some general and basic anatomy as far as Teslas are concerned, some takeaways as far as stabilizing and lifting points if the vehicle isn't all four tires, and then some safety components that we should be aware of as first responders responding to these traffic accidents. A lot of this information is online. Tesla does have a whole manual that is specifically for first responders. It's pretty extensive, a lot of information in there. So I've just kind of taken a lot of that info, kind of condensed it, put it into a very straightforward little class for everybody. And there's some videos out there as well that I've watched, and this is just kind of the important things that we should be aware of as firefighters going on these calls. So keeping the car stationary. So we're all pretty aware at this point that these Tesla cars operate very quietly. Sometimes they go by us and we didn't even know they were there. So just be mindful that, if there's nobody in the car and you can't hear it, don't necessarily think that the vehicle is turned off or that power isn't running through the vehicle. These vehicles also have what's called creep mode. So owners do have the option to turn creep mode on or off, and the best way to describe that is kind of, in normal ordinary combustion engine vehicles, when you are stopped and your foot is on the brake, you are not moving. However, if you take your foot off the brake, that vehicle is going to start creeping forward and rolling slightly. So like I mentioned, these Tesla cars have the option to turn that on or off. So just because, like I mentioned before, if there's nobody in the vehicle and the car's not moving, don't necessarily assume that that car is in park, because it could potentially not be, even though it's not moving or creeping forward. So another little takeaway as far as this class is concerned, all this information I kind of put together is solely based off of the Model 3 and the Model S, which, according to online resources, is the most common model. There is a handful more models that are out there. So don't assume that all this information is generic or can be applied to all of the models. It can slightly differ. So as far as putting the car into park, this picture here on the right is going to be located kind of where the blinker normally would be located. The blinker switch in normal vehicles or standard vehicles. In order to put the car in park, we are going to press that button next to the P inward, and that's going to hopefully shift the car into park, and that should display on the screen in the dash if the car has been successfully put into park. So here's a kind of a real life photo of that shifter. Like I mentioned, you're going to push that silver button there on the right to press that, and then in the backdrop there you can see the screen, and it should display what gear the vehicle is in. So that previous photo was the Model 3. This is kind of a newer model. This is the Model S. This kind of has a touch screen or touch platform feature there in the center of the vehicle. The manual online says that you need to touch it once to kind of wake the screen up, and then push whatever gear you want the car to be in again in order to actually put that motor into the desired gear. So the key fob for Teslas, as you can see, they're pretty sleek, buttonless. It's all touch sensitive now. There are three features or three things that you can do with these fobs, and they are all double click. You can open the trunk in the rear, you can unlock the whole car, and you can open the hood as well with the key fob. Like I mentioned, all double tap feature, and something to be aware of as far as the front of these vehicles is concerned is that there is a storage compartment up there. It's not just, open the hood and it's a full-on motor in there. Obviously, these cars don't have full-blown motors, and they have now utilized that space in the front as a storage area. So door handles, this is definitely one of the most noticeable unique features that Tesla utilizes on their cars. Unlike any other vehicle, this picture on the left is the newer model, and then the picture on the right is kind of the older first generation Tesla door handle. So going back over to the photo on the left side here, in order to open the car door and use that handle, you're going to push in on that far side that curves up. You're going to depress that in, and it's going to allow the front of the handle to protrude out, and now you have something to grab onto and open the vehicle's door. This picture on the right side, like I mentioned, that's kind of the early Tesla model. You just push that whole handle in towards the vehicle itself, and that's going to unlock the latching mechanism, and that whole handle is then going to come outwards and allow you to put your hand in there and open the vehicle's door. So stabilizing and lifting points. This is color coordinated here on this photo. However, on the bottom sides of these Teslas, they are all black and fairly flush. This orange part that you see here is the high voltage battery. This is in the same location on all Teslas, so just be mindful of that. Like I mentioned, it is flush. It can be very inviting for the first responder to grab a tool and go ahead and do a baseball swing into the bottom side of the car there to create a purchase point for stabilization tools. However, do not do that. That is going to be detrimental to your health, swinging a tool directly into the battery, so it is not recommended. One cool thing that Tesla has done is you see this kind of little green mechanism right here that's been blown up on the photo. Those are actually put in by the manufacturer to assist us in stabilizing. So that is a built-in purchase point for our stabilization struts that we are to use as first responders. These do vary as far as how they appear on different models. However, this is the Model 3, which is one of the most common ones, and it is that rectangular shape. Some other ones are kind of like a triangular shape. But like I mentioned, use these on scene if there is a car on its side to stabilize the vehicle when we do want to go ahead and use our strut system. So if we're trying to do some kind of quick approach to the vehicle and just do some real quick stabilization using some step chocks, pretty straightforward. We would kind of use the same technique that we would on any other vehicle. That safe stabilization point is to be used at yellow portion in the picture here. Just go up, if you can, grab underneath the wheel well, lift up, and then slide that step chalk underneath the running board there, and then let the vehicle come down and rest on that step chalk just to get some initial stabilization. So here's what it actually looks like underneath there. Like I mentioned, it's all black. They try to make it look nice and sleek, even though no one can really see it. And it looks nice and flush. But yeah, do not swing a tool into the bottom there because that is the high voltage battery. All right, so some anatomy. So these are just this is just a diagram of where things are located. Just be mindful, we're always told to be aware of where these canisters and these struts are located in the vehicle. There are some back there towards the trunk, so try not to cut through those if we're using some vehicle extrication tools. Just be mindful where they're located so you don't create a potential hazard or injure yourself. yeah, there's pretensioners all throughout, and then where these batteries and stuff are located, you can see here. All right, so kind of an aerial view of the vehicle. You can see some of these where the struts are located here. You know, these green things back here for the trunk. Don't cut through those. There's also some for the hood up front. These purple things or these purple areas are the airbags throughout the vehicle. So if you're if you're taking the roof off, just be mindful of the seatbelt pretensioners located here. And then if you look closely, this right here, this is actually a very cool and unique feature that Teslas offer. This is called the first responder loop. We'll go into that here in just a sec. I just want to point out that they are kind of located in two general areas of the vehicle depending on the model. You can see where this one is located here. And then if we continue on to this is the Model S. This is where it's going to be located on this model. So yeah, that is a cool feature that the Teslas do offer, and we'll get into that in just a second. Just be mindful that they are located here and here. So high strength areas. If we're trying to do a B-pillar blowout or get access to our patient who is stuck inside or needs to be extricated, just be mindful that this B-pillar on Teslas will create kind of a challenge for us as first responders trying to cut through them. It's high strength steel and boron. It's kind of a mix, and it's a safety feature according to Tesla for crushing, so the vehicle doesn't crush inwards towards the patient. But just be mindful if you're trying to cut through these that it's going to be a little bit more challenging than most vehicles just due to that type of metal that they use. So some of the glass. This glass is all that runs all the way across the roof in some of the newer Tesla models. It is laminated glass, so that whole front windshield, as well as I guess you could call it the sunroof or the roof, as well as the rear window, that's all going to be laminated glass. So if you try to take that or try to gain access to a patient who is stuck inside, just be aware that if you just try to swing a tool into it, you are going to be presented with a laminated type of glass. So the Tesla offers options as far as the side windows or the standard windows are concerned. These are tempered as well as they can be laminated as well, depending on what the owner would like. So don't just assume that it's going to be tempered glass like on your standard or generic vehicles. Don't assume that you can just take that glass real quick and it's going to all shatter into pieces and you're going to be able to gain access to your patient very easily through the window, because like I mentioned, there are some different options that these Teslas have, and one of them being laminated glass for the entire vehicle. This little window right here, per Tesla and per the safety manual, is always going to be tempered. So if we need to gain quick access or reach in quickly and we don't have time to deal with laminated glass, our first attack should be with this little or through this little window back here. This is always going to be a tempered window. So back to the first responder safety loop. This is kind of what we were presented with on the last few calls that we've been on with these vehicles. For someone who isn't familiar with this first responder loop and seeing it for the first time, it can be a little challenging to interpret as far as whether we can cut it or not. Generally speaking, I can't speak for everyone, but as far as myself is concerned, I was always under the assumption that with these hybrid or electric vehicles, you will pop the hood and you're probably going to see like a bright orange or a bright red cable, and that is to not be cut under any circumstances because you can get electrocuted and you can cause harm to yourself. So I had the mindset of never cutting something that was a bright color like that if presented on one of these electric vehicles. However, Tesla has made this feature for us specifically, and it is to be cut by us to deactivate some of the low voltage battery system, or the low voltage battery system in the vehicle. So that manual kind of goes over the whole voltage system in these vehicles, the low voltage system is just like on a standard vehicle. That's going to be straight from the battery, which charges the whole vehicle. And that is going to, by cutting that, it's going to shut off that low voltage system, making it a little bit safer for us to operate in the case of a crash or cutting or extricating a patient. It is per Tesla. They do say to do a double cut. Don't just do a single cut through this first responder safety loop, because some of the memory on that cable can cause the cable to kind of retouch each other after cutting through it if you do a single cut. So they say to kind of just do a quick little double cut, cutting it in two locations. That way there is no potential for those cables to touch and charge the battery again after we've cut it. So just some quick facts on the battery itself. Like I mentioned before, it is located on the bottom of the vehicle. It is a 1,000 pound 400 volt battery, lithium ion, and that's going to be standard. Some have two batteries on them, so these can present hazards depending on how the vehicle is positioned, or if it's been compromised or damaged in a crash. So this was on scene a couple weeks ago. This is what it kind of can look like. As you see there, there's the little fire helmet on there, kind of signifying that that's for us. You see these bolt cutters. A couple of individuals on scene brought up the fact that this tag can be a little misinterpreting or challenging to interpret, because you see the dotted line and the tool, and then you see the big X here in that picture on the right. It was brought up that maybe that means do not cut right here, don't cut this cable. However, after doing some research, this is specifically made for us, and we can cut it, and just make sure that you cut it in two different spots. So that's going to conclude it. If there's any questions or something that I mentioned that was incorrect or should be fixed or anything like that, go ahead and send me an email. I'd be more than happy to do some more research and figure out the answer to any kind of questions and get back to you. So yeah, thanks for taking the time to watch this whole thing, and hopefully we can utilize it out there on the streets. Thanks again.